Welcome to Let's Talk About It Sunday, an extension of KELA's weekday local talk show featuring a variety of subjects of local interest. This program was pre-recorded, so we're unable to take live calls on today's show. And now, let's talk about it.
Welcome to Let's Talk About It Sunday. I'm your host, Peter Abbarno on AM1470 KELA. Maybe you're listening to KMNT 104.3. You could also stream the show at KELAAM.com and KMNT.com. One issue that is always so important to our community is trying to create an accessible, inclusive community, especially when we're talking about recreation, when we're talking about parks and getting out there and making sure every single one of our community members has, the quality of life that we want to enjoy and the access to, enjoyable park equipment. I remember being on city council and getting a little frustrated, the fact that we would buy new park equipment or we'd be building trails and they just weren't accessible to everyone. And there weren't great organizations out there yet that were helping to promote that. Well, today I have the Lewis County Accessible Recreation Organization on. I've got Victoria Romero on. We just had an awesome award ceremony with a foam party, which was hilarious. And Victoria, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I've been really excited about this show because it's a real passion to make sure that no matter your lot in life, no matter whether you have developmental disabilities, physical disabilities, or even just broke your leg and you're in a wheelchair for a little while, our parks, our recreation should be accessible to everyone. And we should have folks out there who are helping to promote that and promote good programs so that people can get out there, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you so much. It's been really exciting to see how far we've come within 1 year.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about, let's start with how you got involved. Like, why is this something that you started?
So after COVID, we were just hearing about, from different friends and parents about how their loved ones needed that socialization and how there wasn't any recreation programs anymore after COVID. Mm-hmm. And that socialization and opportunities was lacking, and everyone was just requesting that. And so there was a group of us that got together and had a meeting with Sarah Sons from the Public Health and Social Services. And we talked about it, kind of what was needed and the envision. And the county came up with the idea and the plan and went to Reliable Enterprises to see if they'd be willing to take this on. And we kind of went from there. I was a part of that original meeting, and then Patty Nelson, who a lot of our community knows,
yep.
She knew an amazing person, Katrina Fillmore, who is my work partner. And so she's like, oh, she'll be great to go ahead and spear this with you. And so we got it approved through the county and with Reliable and started it from there.
Well, it's really great that Reliable Enterprises stepped up to help with that because, they're acting, as I understand, as the fiscal agent. So if you're writing a check to support them, you would write it to Reliable, courtesy of Lewis County Accessible Recreation. That is an awesome role that they took on to help you out.
Yeah, and they also help provide us with, like, say, if we need a van for transportation, if there's participants who don't have a ride to some of our events, we organize that with them. And so there's some of that back support that they offer us, which is pretty awesome.
It is. And I know, and I love Patty, because Patty and Mike, Mike, I've known them for so many years, and mostly as part of the torch run for Special Olympics and Mike's participation. We heard a ton of stories during the pre-COVID and then the post-COVID time where a lot of families with, kids or adults with developmental disabilities and some issues, they rely so heavily on that quality of life of getting out there, moving your body, having, programs to be involved in. But a lot of them really struggled during COVID, and then after, they all kind of faded away for a little while.
Yeah, exactly. So a year ago when we first started this, on our first event, we only had one participant show up. And so the word got out, and it kind of had to spread naturally to let parents, caregivers, and participants know about this opportunity. And once it took off, we now have over 70 participants registered. And what's also what's funny and interesting about it is at first, the first few events, parents and caregivers would just bring the participants to our events. But then after they saw like what we were doing, they stayed. And now I would say the 99.9% of parents and caregivers stay, and they have so much fun, and they've built relationships as well. So it's not only just for the participants, but for their parents and caregivers as well.
Well, and if you're just tuning in to Let's Talk About It Sunday, I'm your host, Peter Abbarno. My special guest today is Victoria Romero, and we're talking about Lewis County accessible recreation. And 70 participants is a lot, especially when it's consistently 70 participants. I mean, that's a lot of folks.
Yeah. So we meet every Wednesday, 10 to 12. And so for those events, the daytime ones, we'll have on average with parents and caregivers, 30 to 40 people. And then our evening or weekend events, that's where we get up to like 70 or so.
Right.
So we like to make sure that we offer the different time options because, you know, our people with disabilities, they have jobs too, and everyone has different schedules, and so we like to offer those different options so that way people can still be a part of the program.
Well, tell us a little bit about how you got involved, because I mean, obviously you've got a personal stake in this as well. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so like I said, I was a part of that original meeting because I know Sarah Sons and Patty Nelson, and I believe Lori Davis was also on that meeting. And so I used to be a program coordinator I did resources for people with disabilities because I have a son on the spectrum who's nonverbal. He's 10. And
what's his name?
Luis.
Because I love Luis, because Luis comes out for the torch run stuff and he's at the events, and it's so much fun to see him.
Yeah, he has really loved Special Olympics, so that's been a great opportunity for him. But as he's gotten older, I've like kind of thought about, okay, you know, as much as I don't want to think too far in the future, but you have to as a parent, what opportunities are there for when he turns 18? And so, and at the time there wasn't anything, and so that's a big part of why I wanted to be involved in this. And also, I kind of wanted to switch career paths and be more in like one-on-one with people rather than just give resources and information. I wanted to be out there and trying to make a difference in a different way. And I have so much fun with it. And so it's just awesome to see that. And I remember years ago, I was a part of a meeting, and there was all sorts of people there. And I believe it was Patty Nelson and a couple others who they had said their vision for after 2020 would be that there would be a full calendar of opportunities for adults with disabilities. And I think this was maybe 2016 when we had this meeting. And so when we do our monthly calendars, we like to add all the Special Olympics events that are going on. The jump program, which is an exercise
at
class.
Thorbeck's,
Yeah,
right?
at Thorbeck's. All Abilities dance class, which is a dance class for people with all different abilities. The Neurodiverse Connections through Cultivating Inclusion. Our program, of course, and just whatever events are going on. So that way, when you look at it, it's like, wow, there's actually like a full week of different opportunities for people with disabilities. And so it's getting to be a part of that planning process and making that happen has just really been enriching for my life.
Well, Victoria, tell me a little bit about, I mean, people have to be surprised when they hear about all the different programs that we have. Because in a lot of rural communities, there aren't that many programs, or there aren't maybe as many passionate people like you who help schedule them all to really take care of these families who, without you, would really be struggling.
Yeah. Well, and so some of these programs, like there wasn't anywhere where people could just find out about it. So that's what's neat about putting it on that calendar, because Fairway Lanes, they do like a program on Wednesdays in season for adults with disabilities, and it's like a discounted rate, and a large group of families go there. But unless you're a part of that group, a lot of people don't know about it. So that's what's neat about having this program is being able to connect all the different resources and then meet families and not only share what we're doing, but sharing what else is going on in the community as well. Because that's like one thing that me and Katrina both really believe in, is partnering with other programs, and also partnering with agencies in the program like Chehalis Parks and Rec. We told them about our program, and they're one of our partners now, and we've been able to have multiple events at their parks, because we don't have just one location that we go to every week, because both of us were very passionate about making sure that our participants are out in the community and providing that as an opportunity rather than just go to the same location. So we are out there in different locations, different cities in Lewis County, and it's been a lot of fun.
So talk about some of those activities. You mentioned there's activities, and you mentioned Fairway Lanes is one of them, the parks another. What are some of the activities that you schedule on a weekly basis, whether it be on that Wednesday or whether it be on a weekend?
So we typically there's a craft day usually each month. And, so it'll be geared toward whatever holiday or season that's going on. And then what we do is make sure that the crafts that we have planned, no matter what somebody's ability level is, that we have accommodations so that everyone can enjoy the same activity, and to do that activity in different ways. So that way it's not, here's the activity and this is how you do it. It's
right.
What way would you like to do it? So it opens up people's creativity. Also on that craft day, we like to throw in like different food recipes and teach food recipes. We do bingo events, movie events, game day.
Dance.
We do dances. The dances are our big popular one. Our Halloween dance is our next one. But we've done a Halloween dance. We've done a Winter Wonderland ball. We've done a St. Patrick's Day dance, a luau dance, and karaoke. Fun. Yeah, and we've done inclusive Easter egg event, making cookies and family photos with Santa, all sorts of different, holiday events like that as well.
Well, and what I like that you said, and I think it's important to highlight, is even on a craft night, you're not telling these families this is exactly how you have to do it, because otherwise you're setting people up for failure, because everyone's going to have a different ability and want to do it a different way. So you kind of say, here's what we're doing, go at it.
Yeah. And, being able to show like an example in different ways to do it, and be flexible on how it's done. And what's really awesome is that we do have our parents and caregivers that typically stay, and they're able to lend a hand, whether that's opening glue bottles or, helping pass out supplies. That has really helped our program a lot, is having those volunteers. And
did that surprise you? Because you sounded early on in the episode that you were surprised by the number of families and caregivers who ended up staying because it was fun and they wanted to hang out.
Yeah, it was a great surprise, because like I said, at first, when we first started, we didn't know kind of how it was going to go. We didn't know if we'd have to, get outside volunteers. But then seeing that, parents and caregivers were fully enjoying themselves and making connections with other parents and caregivers, that has really been awesome. And we have some parents that are part of our group that just make us all laugh and have a great time.
Well, if you're just tuning in to Let's Talk About It Sunday, I'm your host, Peter Abbarno, and Victoria Romero is joining me with the Lewis County Accessible Recreation Organization, and we're talking about all the great things they're doing in the community to make sure that we have programs and locations that are accessible and inclusive for all our folks in the community, our neighbors who have certain disabilities, to get out there, and their caregivers too, because Victoria, what I'm hearing too is that, and this is kind of, everybody needs a little bit of fun and that kind of respite, right? And so you're providing such a relief to so many families.
Yeah. And one of the other events that we do is we call it Discover Lewis County Day. That's typically the last Wednesday of the month, where we go out to, say, a museum or somewhere new, like a farm, somewhere where we can learn. But what's great about that, it's great for those small local businesses. We went to the King's Agriculture Museum.
Oh, it's great.
And so many families that have lived here for years, they had never been. And so then we were able to post that online and show that, and that helps them out. But like I said, it also gives our participants that confidence to revisit some of these locations now that they've been there with our group, which is great. And we would love to find more places to go. So especially like farms and museums and art galleries, things like that. So.
Well, and so that's a good segue into making sure we provide people contact information. So tell people, if they wanted to, if someone's listening and said, hey, I've got this great place where you can come visit, a lavender farm, or I want to be part of it, or I want to donate, how can they contact you?
So they can contact us either by phone, which is 360-472-8301, and Katrina Fillmore will answer that phone. Or the option is email, which is lcaccessiblerecreation@gmail.com. And you can sign up to be part of our email list, because we send out our calendars, we send out reminders. You could also let Katrina know if you would like to be on the call or text reminder, because for every event she calls and or texts participants, just reminding people what's going on next. Or you can follow us on our Facebook page, which is Lewis County Accessible Recreation. But if someone would like to make a donation, like you had said earlier, they would make the check out to Reliable Enterprises, and then it would say in lieu of Lewis County Accessible Recreation.
Yeah, and that's really great, because you could also make donations maybe at reliableenterprises.org. You could actually donate online and then maybe call them and say, hey, I made this donation, but I want it to go to your organization. And it's so great that Reliable Enterprises is playing that role. You're listening to Let's Talk About It, AM1470 KELA and KELAAM.com and KMNT 104.3. My special guest today on this Sunday is the Lewis County Accessible Recreation and Victoria Romero.
You are listening to Let's Talk About It Sunday, an extension of KELA's weekday local talk show. Stay tuned. Let's Talk About It Sunday edition will return in a moment.
Okay, and now back to business.
Listen on the air and online.
KELA.
Let's talk about it. Good morning. You're listening to Let's Talk About It Sunday, an extension of KELA's weekday local talk show. This program was pre-recorded, so no live phone calls on today's show.
All right, we're back with Victoria and Lewis County Accessible Recreation. I am sure parents come up to you all the time, and caregivers, and just want to give you a hug and thank you for what you're doing, right? I mean,
and our participants. I have certain participants that don't want to leave until they get their hug, or don't want to start the program until they get their hug, which it makes both mine and Katrina's day when we get our hugs. So.
Well, and when I was there recently, we should talk about the award ceremony. I was hugged many a time. And for those people who know me, I'm not really a big hugger, but I was hugged quite a bit. What a loving group. What a just amazingly loving group of folks who just are happy to be there and just happy to be together.
Yeah, and what's awesome about that is such a wide age range, too. So our youngest is 18, and I believe our oldest is like 83.
Right.
So the fact that we all we bond and get along so well and just have such a fun time is so amazing. Like, that's the diversity in our group is what I really just love the most. So can I talk about a hug that you got the other day?
You can.
I thought it was pretty awesome. As soon as Peter had arrived to our event, we had a participant that went right up to him and gave him a huge hug. And Peter had assumed that he's a huggy guy, and I'm like, actually, he's not. Like, that was a huge step for our participant. He just opened right up. And then when he got his award that day, he was like skipping and dancing down that little walkway to get his award. And so seeing the progression with our participants, that has been the most rewarding, is just seeing how when participants first go to, the first few events, they might be really shy or quiet or, not want to do the activity, but just over time, just watching them progress and just be excited to be there has been such a blessing.
Well, because you're not treating them like they're special. You're not highlighting a disability. You're treating them like a human being and having a fun group together. And I think they appreciate that, because I think society still has this kind of stigma where, for instance, even after COVID, you were looking for a program. You shouldn't have had to. We should have these programs out there because you need it from, like, your participant ages 18 to 83.
Yeah.
And so it's got to be out there. So I just love the fact that we were there at the Veterans Museum. So big shout out to Chip and the Veterans Museum for opening up their doors to have this award ceremony. But everyone was just there having a good time. Nobody was talking about policy issues or, hey, we need this or that. We were like, this is a party celebrating all the accomplishments. I think you're passing out awards for best dancer or fastest runner or Cody and the farthest throw at one of your events.
Yeah.
It was just fun highlighting all the great abilities and things that they were doing.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And shout out to Guy Steele and that crazy foam party. That was just, I had never experienced a foam party. And that's what's great about this program is I'm having first and new experiences. And it was so fun just watching everybody just run into that foam. And
I ran into it.
Yeah.
It's pretty infectious. Just like you see foam, you just want to run, right?
Yeah, and you were wearing a suit too, so I think all of us were surprised. But our participants that are in wheelchairs, they were able to get in there, because that's another thing that's really important to me and Katrina is everything that we plan and places that we go is accessible for all of our participants.
Right.
Which that sometimes can be a little hard to find places that are wheelchair accessible for our group. So that's one of our big missions, is make sure anything that we plan, all of our participants can be there for.
Right. And I love that because, again, I think I referenced when I was on city council, one of my big frustrations is that when you look at a new park, it was the same old pea gravel that you can't put a wheelchair on. It was the same old park equipment that you can't get a wheelchair, or if somebody had certain disabilities, you weren't able to have, the seatbelt or the strap on to make sure they don't fall out. We need to start thinking about everybody in our community. You don't have to change it all, but you have to have certain things so that, everyone in our community can really benefit and enjoy. And that's why I really like that you look at these activities and think about everyone and making sure everyone can be part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why you get so many hugs from all the participants.
Yeah, I love my hugs.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a reason why that we've also started planning and starting up a teen recreation program, again, to just make sure that there's that opportunity out there for individuals with all different levels of abilities.
Yeah.
So.
No, and the one thing I want to also reiterate is a thanks to Guy. What a great, he owns Shanks Golf. He does all the balloon animals, and now he's got this foam thing, and he's such a giver. He's willing to come out there, and he's very inspirational when you talk to him. And anybody who knows Guy, you walk away with a smile on your face after you had a conversation with him.
And he was a great sport the week before, actually. We had our carnival day, so we had a lot of carnival games. And then the second hour, we had a magic show, which Guy still did. And he was so flexible with making sure that our participants got to be a part of that magic show and involve them, which was pretty awesome. And then also about that foam party, a shout out to Chip over at the Veterans Museum for saving the day, for allowing us to have our foam party at that location. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And it also highlights coalition that you've built. I mean, you talked earlier about partnerships. You have a ton of people who want to support you and a ton of community partnerships. And that's why, providing your information about other partnerships out there is so important, because there's probably people who are going to be listening to the show going, I didn't even know you existed, but how can I help?
Yeah. Yeah. We always need, especially like different locations to go to, or whether it's something small like just donating some bingo items. Everything and anything helps run our program. And so we really appreciate all the different businesses and programs that helps partner with us.
Yeah, I mean, I love the partnerships. I love the fact that people are working together to promote such a good program, and that you're really moving it around and making sure that the participants and the families don't get bored.
Yeah.
Because it's something new all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And when we first started this, it was kind of like watching, okay, like what events does our participants like the most? And okay, these events we need to make sure to have, every month. Another one of our really popular events, but it's getting like really popular and hard for restaurants, is our dine out events. So our program is completely free, but the one event that we have people just pay for themselves is our dine out events. So everyone just pays for their own meal. But the past couple of restaurants, I feel a little bad for the waitresses, because we've grown over 30 people at once we go. But it's, again, great support for local businesses. So we like to make sure that we're choosing, local restaurants when the Possible had first kind of opened up. That was our first location that we went to.
Well, and the good thing, if you're a restaurant or you're a museum, is that they may come back again. Is that you're exposing them to a whole family that may want to come back again and again and again, because the kids or the participants liked it. And so you're doing a real community service for them.
Yeah, and another part of that that's really great is just having that positive experience for that business or place. So maybe they might not know a lot of people with disabilities. So then in that way, we're creating a more inclusive community, which is ultimately the goal.
Yeah, it's the goal, and I think a goal that you're helping accomplish. If you're tuning into the Let's Talk About It Sunday show, I'm your host, Peter Abbarno, here on AM1470 KELA and 104.3 KMNT. My special guest talking about accessible recreation here in Lewis County is Victoria Romero. Victoria, can you talk a little bit more about how people can contact you? I want to make sure that, if people missed you the first time and they're not hitting rewind on their podcast, that you're providing that information so they can grab a pen and paper, and maybe they want to cut a check to Reliable Enterprises in lieu of the accessible recreation. Maybe they want to sponsor an event. Maybe they're a location that says, hey, I would love to have you come visit us.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So ways that you can contact us is one way is through email, which is lcaccessiblerecreation@gmail.com, or you can call Katrina at 360-472-8301, or you can find us on Facebook, which is Lewis County Accessible Recreation on Facebook as well. And you can get on our call list, our text list, or our email list. So make sure to let us know, and then let us know what way you would like to help out, whether that's donating bingo items or letting us come to your business. Right. Like you said, sponsoring, writing the check and making sure that it's in lieu of Lewis County Accessible Recreation. There's so many different ways. We're also needing volunteers for the vans, or even just volunteers for some of our events would be great.
Yeah, and your Facebook page is pretty cool too, because you get to post a lot of pictures from all the different events. So if you're maybe even you want to be a participant, your family who's like, well, I don't really know enough about it, go on Facebook and check them out, because you'll see how much fun they are.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll see all the hugs and smiling faces, and someday I'm going to post all the photos, but yeah, we get a ton of photos and videos each week, and definitely check out the dance videos because our participants have some pretty amazing dance moves, way better than mine.
Well, yes, and I saw a couple of them dancing down the awards aisle when they were picking up their medals and their certificates, so it was pretty funny and really excited to be part of that. Victoria, thank you very much for coming in and sharing with our listeners. And if you have an opportunity to support the Lewis County Accessible Recreation Organization, please do. If you have any questions, go on their Facebook page. It's probably the easiest way a lot of people can communicate. You could probably communicate directly with Victoria or Katrina on that. But big shout out and thank you to everything you're doing in our community.
Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to come speak about this program.
Well,
it really means a lot to me.
And it won't be the last time because we're going to have you on again, especially as we talk about what you're going to be doing in 2024, because I think this is just going to get bigger and bigger.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for listening to Let's Talk About It Sunday on AM1470 KELA and KMNT 104.3.